Welcome back, traveler. I'm glad you're here tonight. If this story brings you a little comfort, you can gently tap like. And if you'd like to return for more quiet nights, you're always welcome to subscribe. Now, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let the day settle somewhere far behind you. Tonight, you'll step into an Aztec chamber where torchlight flickers like breathing embers. A warm, gentle place where old lights glow softly and the world moves at a kinder pace. So find your calm. Let the quiet wrap around you and allow this story to guide you gently into rest. The day is ending in a quiet, molten gold glow. You stand at the edge of the clearing where the forest finally gives way to stone, and for a long moment you simply breathe, feeling the shift between day and night, warmth and coolness, sound and silence. Before you rises the great stepped pyramid. Its silhouette swallows the last sunlight, turning the world around you into deepening blues and soft violet shadows. The sky burns gently behind the temple's peak, a thin slice of amber sinking behind the distant line of Lake Texcoco. Even the air feels heavier now, full of stories, dust, and incense drifting from a place far older than any path you've walked before. You take a few slow steps forward. Leaves crackle under your feet, crisp from the dry season. The birds that filled the canopy with song all afternoon have gone still, as if agreeing that whatever happens after sunset belongs not to them, but to something else. Something older. The quiet is not frightening. It's more like reverence, or the hush inside a great library where no one dares disturb the shelves. The first breath of night spreads across the ground. You feel it as a cool ribbon of wind brushing your ankles, running up the stone ramp that leads toward the pyramid's base. It carries the scent of burning resin, copal, sweet and earthy, a fragrance that glows in memory even before you realize you've smelled it. The Aztecs burned it for cleansing, for prayer, for a bridge between the world above and below. Tonight, it rolls softly through the trees like a gentle call. You lift your eyes again. The pyramid looks impossibly tall from here, though you know it is only the first of many terraces. The carved stone edges are softened by dusk, turning each step into a line of shadow stacked upon shadow. At the very top, barely visible, a torch flickers, one small flame in the coming darkness. It waves lightly, as if greeting you across the distance. A soft hum rises in your chest. Not a sound exactly, more like the feeling of standing near something sacred. The pyramid doesn't move, doesn't speak, but the air around it feels charged, as if the day itself is holding its breath. You're aware of your heartbeat slowing, matching the rhythm of the place, settling into a steadier, quieter pace. You take another step. The earth here is warm, still holding the sun's memory. Small stones shift beneath your sandals. Far behind you, the forest rustles with a low sigh as night creatures stir, but they do not approach the clearing. It is as though an invisible boundary surrounds the temple, a space that the world respects, or perhaps fears, in the gentlest way. Ahead, the last beam of sunlight touches the central stairway. It catches on the carved glyphs that line the base. Faces of gods, curling serpents, marks of seasons and directions. For a fleeting second, the glow makes them appear alive, shifting, breathing, following the slow descent of the sun. When the light finally slips away, the carvings fade back into stillness. You pause. Your breath floats softly in the cooling air. The hush deepens. Somewhere above, the first star appears, bright, steady, patient, and the pyramid waits. No drums, no voices, no ceremony yet. Just the quiet presence of stone and shadow, inviting you toward its ancient steps as night finally, gently, settles over everything. You exhale slowly and begin to walk. The first step is always the hardest, not because it is steep, but because it feels like crossing a threshold. When your foot meets the cool stone, a small chill travels up your leg. Not unpleasant, just enough to remind you that these stairs have carried thousands before you. Warriors, priests, travelers, people who came seeking guidance, protection, or a glimpse into the turning of the heavens. You place your hand lightly on the edge of the stone for balance. Its surface is smooth where countless palms have touched it, polished by time, wind, and quiet devotion. The warmth of daylight has already slipped away, leaving the stone cool but not harsh, like water that has settled in the shade. You begin your ascent. Each step is broad and shallow, designed to slow the climb, to make each movement deliberate. As you rise, The clearing below softens into a muted patchwork of leaves and dim paths. The forest makes a low, rustling sound, the kind that feels older than any language. Wind drifting through branches, settling into silence, rising again. The shadows stretch as you climb. Because the sun has finally dipped behind the horizon, the columns of carved stone cast long, exaggerated shapes across the stairway. They look like dark fingers reaching toward you, but when you pause and breathe, you realize they are only the play of fading light and ancient architecture. Nothing more, nothing less. Still, the shadows feel like they are guiding you upward. Not pushing, not pulling, just existing in a way that makes your ascent feel inevitable. Your breath deepens as you climb. In, out, calm, slow. A thin breeze slips down the steps from above, smelling faintly of smoke and crushed herbs. It carries with it the quiet promise of something waiting at the top. Not a threat, no sharpness in the air, no dread, just the awareness that you are approaching a place meant to be entered with intention. About halfway up, you pause again. Night has settled fully now. The sky shifts from blue to indigo, the first cluster of stars blinking into view. They shimmer softly, scattered like beads on a woven cloth. You notice how still the world feels. No insects buzzing, no distant shouts from the village far beyond the lake. No movement except the gentle sway of branches far below. You continue climbing, slower this time, letting the rhythm of your steps echo gently in the hollow space around you. The higher you go, the more the air changes. It becomes thinner, subtly cooler, tinged with something metallic, like the scent of stone that has witnessed centuries. The wind slides past your shoulders, slipping between the terraces, making small murmuring sounds as it weaves in and out of carved alcoves. You glance at the carvings along the stairway walls. Even in the dim light, you can make out spirals, jaguar faces, serpents with feathered crests, symbols of days and nights. Some look peaceful, others fierce, but all share a strange harmony, as though every line, every curve was carved with a deep understanding of cycles: birth, death, darkness, dawn. Your fingers brush one of the glyphs. It is warmer than the rest. Just a little. As if the last rays of sunlight lingered there longer. Or as if the stone itself remembered something. You take another step. And another. Above you, the torch you saw from below now burns brighter. Its flame wavers in the breeze, pulling long golden strokes across the stone. The light reveals the topmost landing of this part of the temple, a small plateau where two narrow doorways wait in shadow. Almost there. Your steps make soft sounds now, more muffled than before, as though the stone itself absorbs some of the noise out of respect for what lies ahead. You feel the change, subtle but unmistakable. The air holds its breath again. Even the wind lowers its voice. Finally, you reach the top stair. You stand still, letting the silence settle around you. The torch crackles softly, releasing sparks that drift upward before disappearing into the night. The stone around you is dark, heavy, patient. You've left the world of the clearing behind. You are on sacred ground now, higher, quieter, closer to the stars. Ahead, the narrow path leads deeper into shadow, and you take your first step toward the chamber waiting within. The narrow landing at the top of the stairway feels strangely suspended, neither inside nor outside, neither part of the world below nor fully belonging to the mysteries within. You stand for a moment, letting your breath settle, listening to the soft crackle of the lone torch anchored into the stone. Its flame bends as if bowing toward the darkness ahead. Two shadows drift across the doorway, not fast, not startling, just appearing in the quiet way that old places reveal their keepers. When they step into the torchlight, you notice how their movements barely disturb the air, as though they have been waiting in stillness for a very long time and have forgotten how to move loudly. They wear masks. Simple ones at first, carved wood darkened with soot, decorated with thin lines of red and gold. One resembles a jaguar, its eyes narrow and watching. The other bears the hooked beak of a bird, the curve reminiscent of an eagle circling high above the valley. The masks are not frightening. They are ceremonial, softened by age, edges rounded by generations of hands. Their robes whisper against the stone. Woven fibers dyed in deep earth tones, brown, red, ember orange. Each step they take makes a sound like dried leaves brushing together. When they stop before you, the torchlight reflects in the polished surface of their masks, catching faint patterns you could not see before. Swirling symbols, curling lines that mimic the motion of wind over water. Both gatekeepers tilt their heads slightly, in a gesture that feels like a greeting or acknowledgement. Neither speaks. Instead, one lifts a hand, a slender hand, steady, adorned with bands of woven reeds. He makes a slow circular motion in the air, inviting you to bring your breathing down to the calm rhythm of the place. You follow without thinking. One breath, another. The tightness in your chest softens. The other gatekeeper steps closer. You expect footsteps, but the sound barely exists, lost to the stone as though the temple absorbs it. He stops just an arm's length away and gently holds out his palm. Resting on it is a small piece of obsidian, polished to a mirror surface, catching a trembling reflection of the flame. He offers it to you. When you touch it, The stone feels cool at first, then warmer, as if your pulse sinks into it. A tool for stillness, perhaps, a symbol for safe passage, or simply something to anchor your presence in this place. You're not meant to know its full meaning, not yet, but you keep it in your hand, cradling it gently. The gatekeepers turn toward the doorway. This time you notice the tiniest sound, a shift of robes, a faint click of beads touching. They walk ahead in perfect synchrony, slow enough that you can follow without rushing. Their bodies cast long, soft shadows along the walls, shadows that move as if they have their own quiet intentions. The entrance is narrow, barely wide enough for two people to pass side by side. Beyond it lies darkness, but not the harsh kind. It is a deep velvety darkness, with traces of warm light flickering from somewhere inside, as though dozens of torches breathe behind a corner. Before you step forward, you glance back at the world outside. The sky is now a river of stars. The forest below is only a blur of shadow. The world feels impossibly distant, like a memory you're walking away from. You inhale once more and cross the threshold. Immediately, the sounds of the outside world fade. The wind, the leaves, even the distant night insects, they all fall away as if you've stepped into a sealed chamber where the air has its own rules. A faint hum rises in the stone beneath your feet. The gatekeepers walk ahead, one on each side, guiding you deeper. Their masks glow softly where the torchlight touches them, expressions calm, unwavering. You realize they are not here to intimidate you. They are here to accompany you, gentle ushers into a sacred space where silence holds more meaning than speech. Far ahead, you glimpse a warm pulse of light, slow, steady, like a heartbeat echoing through stone, and you follow them toward it. The passage widens slowly, almost shyly, as if the stone is revealing its secrets one breath at a time. The air grows warmer with each step you take, carrying with it the faint smell of resin and something older, something like the scent of rain on ancient stone. The flickering glow you noticed earlier becomes clearer now, separating into distinct threads of orange and gold that dance along the chamber walls. And then you see them, faces, dozens of them, carved directly into the stone. They stretch across the walls in gentle rows, some large as shields, others no bigger than your palm. The torchlight makes the carvings seem to shift as you walk, the shadows slipping slowly across their cheeks and brows. They are not frightening, not harsh, not twisted, but solemn, patient, as if watching over anyone who passes through this place. You pause in front of one of the larger faces. Its features are smooth and strong, broad cheekbones, closed eyes, a slight curve of the lips that could be calm or sadness. Time has softened the edges, but the expression remains. You feel an odd sensation, as if the stone remembers every person who has stood here before you, breathing the same air, tracing the same path. The gatekeepers step a few steps ahead. They turn toward you slightly. Their masks reflect twin sparks of firelight. They do not speak. There is no need. Their presence alone asks you to take your time, to move through this hall with the same quiet respect the generations before you once carried. You return your gaze to the carvings. The faces vary: warriors with stern brows, priests with feathered crowns, animals with open jaws, serpents coiled into spirals, suns with many rays, and moons carved in crescents. Some seem awake. Others look as though they are dreaming. Together, they create a gallery of centuries, each story pressed into the stone, held safely in the dim glow. The hallway feels alive, but softly so. Not in the chaotic sense, no sudden movement, no shifting shapes, just a gentle pulse beneath everything, like a low hum resonating through the walls. When you place your fingertips on the nearest carving, you feel warmth. Not heat, just warmth, subtle and steady, almost like the stone is breathing out slowly. Your touch triggers a faint echo, a soft, hollow sound, as though the stone carries whispers within it. Not voices, just a vibration, a memory, a residue of all the rituals spoken here. It lasts only a moment, but it settles into your chest, calming your heartbeat. The floor beneath you smooths out. Gone is the roughness of the steps. Here, the stone is polished by countless footsteps. Priests carrying torches, scholars tracing glyphs, travelers seeking guidance, and now you. The gatekeepers continue deeper into the hall, their robes trailing lightly, brushing against the carvings like the sound of wind pushing through tall grass. You walk behind them. As you move, the faces seem to follow your progress, not by turning, but through the shifting of light and shadow. Each flicker of torchlight draws different expressions: soft, stern, weary, knowing. You don't feel judged. You feel understood, as though the hall recognizes your curiosity, your caution, your awe. A gentle draft sweeps through the corridor. Warm and steady, it carries with it the glow of torches waiting deeper inside the temple. The air thickens with the scent of incense, sweeter now, woodier, a blend of copal, sage, and dried herbs. It wraps around you like a blanket, soothing your breath, loosening the tension in your shoulders. Ahead, the hallway opens into a larger space. A soft glow rises from the floor, where embers cast long reflections onto the walls. Stone pillars frame the entrance, each carved with a face more intricate than the last. Eyes closed, mouths calm, expression serene, as if guarding a place meant only for quiet hearts. The gatekeepers step aside. One gestures toward the chamber ahead, his hand moving slowly through the warm air. The motion is gentle, inviting, like someone opening a curtain to reveal a room prepared just for you. You take a slow step forward. The hum in the walls softens. The carvings seem to exhale, and the deeper chambers of the temple welcome you with a steady, glowing heartbeat of fire.
The chamber you step into feels warmer, so warm that for a moment you imagine the stone itself carries a quiet fire at its core. The air is thicker here, softer, scented with something sweet and ancient. Wisps of pale smoke curl upward from shallow clay bowls placed along the floor, twisting in slow spirals that fade somewhere near the ceiling's shadowed height. This is incense. Copal, tree resin gathered, shaped, and burned for centuries. Its fragrance settles gently into your lungs, spreading calm through your chest. The smoke does not rise quickly. It moves with intention, rolling, pausing, drifting, as if it has learned to mimic breath. You watch one wisp unfurl like a pale ribbon and drift toward a wall carved with spirals. It touches the stone, then bends upward again, folding into itself before disappearing. The chamber is not empty. Figures stand along the walls, still, tall, wrapped in robes dyed the color of deep earth. Their faces are hidden behind masks shaped into abstract forms. A sun disk, a jaguar's jaw, a crescent moon. None of them speak. None of them move. They stand as steady as pillars, part of the room as much as the stone carvings. Only their presence moves the air. You feel it in the faint pressure around your shoulders, the way the smoke shifts ever so slightly when you step deeper inside. Not a warning, just acknowledgement. These are the watchers of the ritual, keepers of breath, fire, and night. The gatekeepers who guided you step aside, taking positions among them. And then, so soft you almost mistake it for your own heartbeat, a sound begins. A hum, low, vibrating, barely there. It emerges from somewhere near the back of the chamber where the light is faintest. The note is simple, a single tone held steady and quiet. It trembles through the air like the distant echo of a conch shell pressed to your ear. The smoke shifts with it, pulsing in time, swirling in ripples that expand outward. You stand very still. The hum deepens, gaining warmth and resonance. Another voice joins it, then another. Not singing, not speaking, just sound, long, gentle, carried by breath.
The room fills with a low choral vibration, so soft that your ears don't quite hear it, but your ribs do. The sound spreads through your chest, down your arms, into your hands. It is steady, rhythmic, ancient, like the temple itself is remembering something aloud. One of the masked figures steps forward. His robe brushes the floor, sending a tiny breeze across your feet. He lifts a bowl of incense in both hands, palms steady, fingers curved in a gesture of offering. The bowl glows, red embers nestled under thick white smoke. When he tilts it slightly, the smoke pours upward in a slow column, curling above your head like a serpent made of cloud. The hum deepens again. You close your eyes for a moment, not because you are told to, but because the sound seems to move more clearly through you when you let go of sight. The warmth of the incense drifts against your face. The scent settles behind your eyes, where memory and imagination mix into a quiet haze. When you open your eyes, the bowl bearer has stepped back. The figures around the chamber sway almost imperceptibly. Their movements are so small, so controlled, that you're not sure they're moving at all. Perhaps only the shadows shift as the torches breathe. The hum begins to separate. One tone rises, another falls, a third grows faint, trailing into silence. They weave together like threads on a loom, forming a slow, hypnotic pattern that fills the room without touching harshness. The sound soothes, guides, anchors you. It tells you, without words, that the path deeper into this temple is not walked with footsteps alone. You inhale again. The smoke is sweeter now, mixed with herbs you don't recognize, soft, green, almost floral. A breeze brushes your cheek, warm and gentle, though there is no place for wind to enter this chamber. You take one more step. The hum grows softer, encouraging. The carved walls seem to glow with each flicker of torchlight, and somewhere ahead, deeper in the temple, something waits, steady and patient, like a heartbeat carved into stone. The chamber narrows again before opening into a vast circular room. Here the air feels warmer still, thick with incense, thick with silence, thick with the weight of centuries. You step through the threshold and feel the shift immediately, as though you've crossed into the center of something sacred. At first, you see only darkness. Then the firelight catches. A ring of torches lines the perimeter, each flame rising and falling in slow waves, as if breathing in a rhythm older than the temple itself. Their glow stretches toward the middle of the room, pooling into a soft golden circle on the floor. And there, resting upon carved stone, vast and unmoving, is the calendar disc. It lies flat, wide as a small house, carved with layer upon layer of symbols. Even from here, you can see the rings, outer cycles, inner wheels, spirals within spirals, each etched with figures of gods, animals, suns, moons, days, nights. The craftsmanship is impossibly fine. Every line looks deliberate, purposeful, certain. You step closer. The torches behind you flicker, and the shadows ripple across the disk. The carvings change with each flicker, not moving, but seeming to shift as the light bends around their raised edges. The effect is subtle, slow, almost like watching breath expand and contract through stone. For a moment, it feels alive. The firelight draws your attention to the outermost ring. Jaguar symbols alternate with curling flames, representations of night and day. Their eyes, carved deep into the stone, catch the light in tiny golden glints. You kneel beside the disk. When your hand rests on its surface, the stone is cool at first, but then a warmth spreads outward from your palm, soft and steady, like heat left behind by the sun hours after setting. It pulses gently under your skin, not strong enough to startle, only enough to make your fingers press more closely to the carved lines. The gatekeepers stand behind you now, silent, still, their masked faces reflecting the glow of the torches. One of them steps forward and touches the stone with the tips of his fingers far from where your hand rests. His gesture is slow, reverent. When he lifts his hand, you could swear the warmth beneath your palm grows deeper, as though your presence and his acknowledgement have awakened something. Not alive in the way people live, but alive in the way stories breathe. The firelight shifts again. The central face of the disk, broad, calm, crowned with rays of the sun, catches a flicker of gold. For a moment, the carved eyes seem to brighten, not open, not move, just brighten, the way embers glow more intensely when a breath of air touches them. You lean closer, not because you are pulled, but because curiosity softens the fear. Something about the disk feels welcoming, like a guide inviting you to understand its language through touch and breath rather than through words. Tiny particles of incense ash drift down, falling like slow gray snowflakes onto the stone. Each one melts into the warmth, leaving nothing behind. The scent here is richer, resin, smoke, faint hints of citrus from crushed leaves burned earlier in the night. The gatekeeper with the jaguar mask kneels beside you. He places his palm on another section of the disk. You notice his breath, slow, smooth, timed with the hum still echoing faintly from the previous chamber. When he exhales, the torchlight bends slightly inward, as though nodding toward the disk. He lifts his hand and traces a carved spiral in the air. A gesture, simple, but meaningful. You follow it with your eyes, and when you return your gaze to the disk, the central spiral seems deeper than before, as if the shadows have settled perfectly into its groove. Another pulse of warmth rises, this one fainter, but unmistakable. It feels like the stone acknowledges your presence, not in a supernatural way, but in the quiet, sacred manner of a place shaped by countless hands and countless prayers, a place that holds memory the way the sky holds stars. You breathe with it, slow, steady, letting your heartbeat match the rhythm of the chamber. And somewhere in the shadows, beyond the torches, another soft sound begins to stir, a whisper of footsteps, a shift of robes, the gentle beginning of the next ritual waiting deeper within the night.
A soft rustle stirs behind you. Robes shifting, beads brushing together, the faint sound of someone preparing to speak without actually forming words. When you look up, one of the elder keepers has stepped closer to the calendar disc. His mask is different from the others, longer, narrower, shaped like a crescent moon with thin etched patterns spiraling backward across the temples. He kneels beside the disc with a slow, practiced grace. For a moment, he simply rests his hand on the carved stone, letting his fingers settle into the grooves of ancient symbols. The torchlight flickers, drawing thin golden lines along the edges of his mask. Behind him, the other keepers form a quiet ring, present, watchful, neither tense nor relaxed, as if they've stood this way every night for 1,000 years. The elder tilts his head slightly toward you. Not a command, not a question, just an invitation to listen. He lifts his free hand and draws it across the air, tracing a simple arc, one that resembles the curve of the moon as it slips toward darkness. His sleeve falls softly, revealing a bracelet of small obsidian beads that clink with the movement, producing a delicate, glass-like sound. Then he gestures to the disc, specifically to one of the inner rings, a circle filled with symbols of night: jaguars, owls, crescents, closed eyes, stars carved with sharp, narrow rays. These symbols are smaller than the outer rings, more intimate, etched in tight patterns that seem to spiral toward the center.
The elder touches the jaguar symbol first. The torchlight catches on the carved fangs, and for a moment they gleam as if dipped in molten gold. He taps the symbol lightly. A soft, hollow note echoes beneath the stone. You feel it in your fingers. Then he moves to the crescent. The carved curve reflects the light, in a thin, shimmering band, almost like the real moon resting on still water. Finally, he places his hand over a symbol near the edge of the ring, a small circle with radiating lines carved unevenly, some stretching long, others short. It looks like a sun partially swallowed by shadow. The elder traces the lines gently, almost lovingly, a sign of eclipse, a sign of the moment when day becomes night, and night becomes something deeper, an omen that the Aztecs once watched with awe and trembling breath. The elder lifts his hand and makes another gesture in the air, a small downward sweep, followed by a slow turn of the wrist. You understand without explanation. Shadow crossing light, light bending under shadow. A cycle predicted, awaited, respected. He does not speak a single word, but the message is clear. Night was never just darkness. To the people who carved this disk, night carried meaning, warnings, blessings, turning points, reminders that the sky and the earth were always in conversation. He shows you another symbol, a cluster of tiny carved stars. They are uneven, scattered, almost chaotic compared to the other precise lines. He draws a wide circle around them with his finger. A night of wandering stars, a sign of change. Then he presses his palm to the stone. The warmth beneath your own hand seems to answer. Not stronger, but more focused, as if the disk acknowledges the shared attention, the shared breath. You notice something else. The smoke from the incense bowls has drifted closer, thinning into delicate threads that float toward the symbols the elder touched. They coil gently above the carvings, forming wisps that resemble pale constellations. A soft wind, barely noticeable, rolls through the chamber, rustling the robes of the standing figures. Only a moment, just long enough to make the torch flames bow inward, casting long shadows across the disk. Those shadows fall directly across the eclipse symbol. The elder keeper watches the movement with calm acceptance, as though the dance of fire and stone is part of the ritual, part of the omen itself. He nods once deeply, then lifts his hand from the disk. The shadows withdraw. The torchlight returns to its steady glow. The warmth under your palm eases, but remains present. The elder gestures toward the far end of the chamber, a passageway where darkness gathers in a soft, welcoming curve. The signs have been shown. The omens have been acknowledged. Your path leads onward. You rise slowly, breath steady, and follow the elder keeper's silent invitation into the deeper quiet of the temple night.
The passage ahead narrows before widening again into a smaller, round chamber. Darker than the last, quieter than the ones before. The air here feels warmer, almost heavy, as though the space is holding its breath. A faint orange glow pulses at the center of the room, rising and dimming in a slow, steady rhythm. At first, you think it's a trick of the eyes. Then you step closer. A single ball rests on a carved stone pedestal. Shallow, clay, darkened by centuries of smoke. Inside it lies a bed of embers, deep red, breathing gently in waves of light. They shift, flare faintly, then settle, almost as though they are exhaling. No flames leap upward, no smoke rises. Only the glow moves, pulsing with a calm that feels impossibly alive. One of the gatekeepers approaches the ball. His mask, patterned like a jaguar's face, tilts downwards with reverence. You hear the soft rustle of beads as he kneels beside it, his fingers hovering inches above the embers, but never touching. The warmth radiating from the ball brushes your skin from where you stand, comforting rather than hot. The keeper lifts both hands and makes a gesture, a slow downward sweep, then an open-palmed circle above the ball. You can feel the meaning without understanding the words. This is the heart of the night, the marker of hours, the fire that never dies. He spreads his hands apart. The embers respond. A bright pulse rises from the center. Not a flame, just light. A soft blossom of red that blooms outward and fades again. You blink, but the ball remains exactly as before, glowing gently, rhythmically, as though nothing had happened. A second keeper joins him, this one wearing a mask shaped like a crescent moon. She sits opposite the first, her knees touching the carved symbols on the pedestal. Her hands move in a mirrored arc above the ball, guiding the faint shimmering heat upward. The gesture feels like shaping breath, or weaving something unseen. Their motions are slow, steady, synchronized. And with each sweep of their hands, the embers glow just a little brighter. You can feel the hum through the floor now, a faint vibration running through the stone, soft, even, calming. You realize the sound is not coming from the ball. It is coming through it. As though the embers amplify something the temple already carries in its foundations, a rhythm, a memory, a pulse. The moon-masked keeper reaches to her side and lifts a small handful of crushed herbs. She sprinkles them gently over the ball. The moment the herbs touch the embers, they vanish. No smoke, no spark, just a subtle shift in scent. A sweetness enters the air, warm, earthy, with a hint of something bright and green. The scent settles around you like a blanket. The embers swell once, twice, each pulse spreading through the chamber walls in barely their ripples. The jaguar-masked keeper places a hand lightly on the pedestal. The moon-masked keeper does the same. Together they inhale deeply, their breaths slow, steady, measured, and the embers brighten in perfect unison with their exhale. It feels like watching two people keep time with the heart of the temple. Then, slowly, they rise. Not a word is spoken, but something in the room shifts. A quiet acknowledgement, a gentle passing of responsibility. The keepers step aside. The embers continue their slow, steady breathing, unbothered by the absence of hands guiding them. As you walk closer, you feel the warmth radiating outward, soft pulses brushing your palms, as though encouraging you to match the rhythm. One breath in, one breath out. Glow, fade, glow, fade. It is the calmest heartbeat you have ever felt. And deeper within the temple, past another stone archway softened by centuries of footsteps, you sense the next chamber waiting, the place where the astronomer-priests keep watch over the hidden motions of the sky. The fire has accepted you, and now the night invites you onward. The archway beyond the ember bowl leads into a long, narrow corridor. The air cools as you pass through, as though the warmth of the previous chamber has been deliberately left behind. The floor beneath your feet grows smoother, the stone worn down by centuries of soft, deliberate footsteps. Ahead, a faint glimmer of light appears, not from torches, not from fire, but from something sharper, paler, like moonlight filtered through stone. As you continue, the corridor opens into a high, circular observatory. At its center stands a tall column carved with spirals that stretch upward
toward a narrow slit in the ceiling. Through that slit, a slice of night sky shines like a thin blade of silver. Stars drift across it in a slow procession, crossing the narrow beam of light one by one. And around the column, moving with careful, soundless precision, are the astronomer-priests. They wear lighter robes than the keepers, pale fabrics dyed with shades of gray and muted blue, colors of pre-dawn skies. Their masks are smaller, slimmer, decorated with fine lines like constellations painted across the cheeks. They do not speak. They do not gesture loudly. They move like shadows following the breath of the temple. One of them adjusts a carved wooden marker set into the floor. Another aligns a polished obsidian mirror, angling it to catch the narrow beam of starlight. A third kneels to make a small mark on a clay tablet, pressing symbols with a pointed stylus. Their movements flow with a quiet purpose, as if they are part of a choreography repeated every night for centuries. You step slowly into the room. The nearest astronomer notices you without turning his head. He pauses only long enough for acknowledgement, then resumes his task, tracing a circle in the air with his hand, inviting you to watch. You do. The mirror angles the starlight across the room. It hits the central column, then reflects again across a second mirror, then again, until finally the light lands softly on a ring of symbols etched on the floor. A single symbol illuminates, a carved sun, half-shadowed. You recognize it from earlier, the mark of an omen night, a crossing of cycles, a presence of shadow where light normally rules. Another astronomer steps forward. He carries a bowl of water, perfectly still, perfectly smooth. He kneels and places it beneath the reflected starlight. The light trembles across the water's surface, bending into ripples of pale silver. Then, ever so carefully, he lowers a small obsidian shard into the bowl. The water darkens, but the light remains. It seems to hover above the surface, resting on the tension between shadow and glow. The astronomer lifts the bowl. You watch as the starlight clings to the water like liquid metal, shifting and sliding with every breath he takes. Another priest approaches with a bundle of thin wooden sticks. He lays them in a precise pattern at the foot of the column, a star map simplified into straight lines, angles, crosspoints. He steps back. The starlight shifts again. The light falls across the sticks, illuminating one angle more brightly than the rest. A quiet hum rolls through the chamber floor. You realize it aligns perfectly with the ember bowl's pulse. The two chambers, fire and sky, are breathing in the same rhythm. The astronomers continue their silent work, marking the slow drift of stars, adjusting mirrors, watching how light bends, listening to something you cannot hear, though you can feel the vibration of it in the stone beneath your feet. One of them finally turns toward you fully. His mask is shaped like a narrow crescent, its edges painted with specks resembling stars. He lifts his hand and draws a single line downward, then taps the floor twice. A simple message. You are inside the night's measurement. You are walking where time is listened to, not counted. The starlight glides across the chamber again, beginning its next slow shift toward another symbol on the floor. The astronomers step aside. A deeper darkness gathers under an archway at the far end, a doorway leading to the chamber where the night itself begins to speak through wind and stone. The next passage is waiting, and the quiet rhythm of the temple guides your steps toward it.
The archway at the far end of the observatory leads you into a narrower passage, one that slopes gently downward, carved at a subtle angle, as though guiding you deeper into the temple's lungs. The astronomers do not follow, but you feel their quiet presence behind you, the rhythm of their work continuing in soft, measured motions. The air here changes again. It cools first, brushing lightly across your cheeks. Then it thins, carrying with it a faint dryness, the scent of open sky, dust, and distant stone. You wouldn't expect wind this deep inside the temple, yet there it is, a slow exhale, drifting gently through the corridor like a whispered memory. You walk quietly, letting your fingers trail against the stone wall. The carvings are less intricate here, more symbolic. Lines of small repeating faces, their mouths shaped into rounded O's, as though exhaling. Each face is smooth, worn down by time, nearly indistinguishable from the next, a motif of breath, perhaps, or prayer, or the wind itself. Another breeze slides past you, warmer this time. It brings with it the faint scent of copal mixed with something earthier, the smell of weathered stone still holding the heat of the day. It settles around your shoulders before moving on, disappearing deeper into the hall. You reach a small balcony-like
opening in the wall, just a narrow slit, similar to the observatory's skylight, but this one looks outward. Beyond it, the night stretches wide across the valley. You see the outline of distant hills, softened by darkness. The lake glimmers faintly, reflecting thin trails of moonlight like scattered silver. And far below, at the base of the pyramid, the forest sways in slow, uneven waves. A gust rises from the valley and travels upward. By the time it reaches the balcony slit, it has thinned into a delicate tremor, a trembling whisper that slips through the opening and glides along the corridor walls. The sound it makes is gentle but strange, not quite a whistle, not quite a sigh, something in between, something like a message carried too far to still hold meaning, yet familiar enough that your chest loosens in response. Another tremor follows. It's slightly stronger, brushing your clothes, lifting a few strands of hair. The torches mounted near the passage flicker, leaning away from the breeze for a moment before settling again. You inhale deeply. The wind feels clean, but also charged, as if it carries echoes from the world outside the temple, reminding you that while you walk among stone and symbols, the living earth breathes all around. From deeper in the corridor, you hear a soft movement, not footsteps, more like the shifting of cloth or the settling of air against carved stone. You turn and continue your path. With each step, the breeze fades, replaced by stillness. The corridors narrow once more, guiding you downward into a wider chamber. And that's when you hear it, a low rumble, not from voices, not from drums, but from the wind rushing in a single sudden wave across the outside walls of the pyramid. The sound rolls through the stone like distant thunder, vibrating softly under your feet before fading again. It doesn't frighten you. If anything, it makes the temple feel more alive, as if the architecture is in conversation with the world beyond its walls. The rumble ebbs. Silence returns, a deep, layered quiet that settles over your shoulders like warm cloth. the corridor opens into another chamber at last, dimmer than the others, lit only by a single torch mounted near the entrance. The air is completely still. Not even a tremor remains. And somewhere ahead, deeper within the darkness, you sense the beginning of an older ritual, older than any written calendar. The wind has announced your arrival. Now the chamber waits.
The moment you step into the chamber, the stillness feels different. Not empty, not silent, just aware. The air is warmer here, but not as warm as the ember room. The torch near the entrance flickers with a strangely steady rhythm, as though someone is shielding it from drafts, yet the air does not move. You take another slow step. The walls curve inward in a perfect circle, carved with symbols you haven't seen in any of the previous chambers. These aren't faces, animals, suns, or moons. They are simple lines, some straight, some gently curved, but each spaced with such precision that they look almost like script, a script that breathes. You lean closer. The lines are shallow, delicate, worn so smooth by centuries that they seem more like memories than carvings. And as you brush your fingertips along the stone, something unexpected happens. A faint tremor hums beneath your skin. It is not the pull of wind. It is not footsteps. It is not the deep vibration from the calendar chamber. It's softer, quieter, more intimate, like a whisper carried through the stone. You pause, holding your breath for a moment. The hum continues, barely perceptible, but unmistakably present. You shift your hand an inch to the left. The tone changes, a little higher, a little lighter, as though the wall is tuned and your touch is plucking invisible strings. You move your hand again. Another tone, lower, deeper, slower. You realize then what these lines are. A record. Not of events, but of breath, of sound, of ritual murmurs pressed into stone by countless nights just like this one. The walls are whispering because the temple remembers. Footsteps break the stillness, soft, unhurried. A keeper steps into the chamber behind you. His mask is shaped like a serpent's open mouth, though stylized in gentle curves rather than sharp fangs. He does not speak. He doesn't need to. Instead, he raises both hands and lightly presses his palms against the wall. You hear it immediately. The hum deepens, not loud, never loud, but fuller, like another voice joining a low chant. The keeper moves his palms slowly across the wall, and the pitch rises and falls with each motion. Not music exactly, not language. Something in between,
carried through stone instead of air. You place your hand beside his. He pauses, allowing your presence to shape the sound. Together, you create a soft weave of tones, your touch bringing a higher trembling note, his grounding it with deeper resonance. The chamber fills with the faintest harmony, like the echo of a lullaby sung generations ago. When he removes his hands, the vibrations continue for a moment, long enough to settle into your chest before they fade. You exhale slowly. The warmth of the chamber breathes with you. And then you hear it, a second whisper, not from the wall, not from the torch, from deeper within the chamber, a soft exhalation, barely a breath, as if the room itself is acknowledging the ritual. You step back, letting your fingers fall away from the stone. The whisper fades. The keeper bows his head gently, acknowledging your participation, then gestures toward a darkened archway on the far side of the room. His movement is almost imperceptible, just a slight shift of the mask, a small tilt of his hand. But you understand. The whispers were only preparation. The next chamber holds the heart of the night's story. You breathe in one last time, the scent of warmed stone, the faint sweetness of old incense trapped in pores of rock, the lingering echo of sound beneath your fingers, and step toward the shadowed opening where a deeper, older quiet awaits you. The archway ahead lowers slightly, its stone lintel carved with curling rays, some rising, some collapsing inward. You duck beneath it and enter a chamber smaller than the last, lit by only 3 torches arranged in a triangle around a low stone dais. The air here is warm, but not from fire. It feels warm the way old stories feel warm, as if memory itself radiates heat. A single keeper stands at the center. His mask is different from the others you've seen. It is shaped like a human face, calm, symmetrical, but ringed with pointed rays, each carved and painted a soft, faded gold. It resembles the sun, but not the one you know. This is the sun of another age, one that lived and died long before your time. The keeper raises his hand, not to silence you, but to steady the air around him, as though he's drawing all sound inward. Then he begins the tale. He does not speak with words. Instead, he moves with gestures, slow, deliberate, each one carrying the weight of countless retellings. And the chamber responds to him. When he lifts his palm upward, the torches flare, casting long golden arrows of light onto the ceiling. You see the carvings there for the first time. 5 circles arranged like petals around a central point. The 5 suns. The keeper touches the first circle on the ceiling. The torchlight dims slightly. His fingers trace the carved lines, shaped like waves crashing over mountains. The first sun, he conveys, ended in flood. A slow sweeping gesture follows, his hand gliding outward, fingers curling as though releasing water. The shadows ripple across the floor as if pulled by an unseen tide. Then he moves to the second circle. The carving resembles a jaguar's open mouth. The second sun fell to beasts. He lowers his body slightly, shoulders rolling forward, capturing the silent prowl of predators. The air seems to thicken, not with fear, but with the memory of power. The third circle shows spears of wind. The third sun was taken by storms. He rotates his wrists, spinning his fingers in slow spirals. A faint breeze stirs, or perhaps you imagine it, but the torches sway, their flames bending as though touched by a gentle draft. He moves to the fourth circle. The carving shows figures struggling under a sky of flame. The fourth sun burned in fire. His hand rises vertically, palm toward the ceiling, and the torches flare so brightly you have to narrow your eyes. The heat brushes your cheeks, not sharp, just enough to remind you of the power invoked. Then he stops. He steps back to the center of the dais. He places both hands over the fifth circle on the ceiling. The carving is simple. A sun with rays uneven, some long, some short, as if still forming. The fifth sun, the world you stand in now. The keeper lowers his hands slowly, bringing the idea down from the ceiling toward the level of your eyes. He holds his palms out as though offering something fragile. Then he cups his hands together. In that gesture, you recognize the meaning. This son was born through sacrifice. He draws a line from his chest outward, a gesture of giving, of surrendering breath and life to ignite a new era. Then he closes his hands again, fingers weaving tightly. The shadows gather around him, not in a threatening way, but in a way that mirrors the myths. Light born from darkness, darkness remembering light. Finally, he presses one hand to the floor. The stone hums softly beneath your feet. A reminder, every sun ends, Every cycle turns, but tonight is not an ending. Tonight is a remembering. The keeper rises. His mask's golden rays shimmer once more. He sweeps his arm toward the final passage, a gesture both blessing and invitation. The tale has prepared you. Now the night deepens, and the chamber beyond awaits with a glow not entirely made of firelight.
The passage leading out of the Sun Keeper's chamber is narrow and dark. But the darkness doesn't feel empty. It feels full, like a cloth drawn gently over the senses, softening every sound, every breath, every thought. As you walk, the air cools again, and the scent at incense thins until only a faint sweetness remains on the edge of your inhale. A soft glow appears ahead, not the yellow-orange flicker of torches, but a subtler light, silver, pale, unsteady. You enter the chamber. It is nearly bare. Only one object sits at its center, a tall obsidian mirror, perfectly smooth, standing upright on a carved stone base. The surface reflects the dim light of a single candle placed beside it, but the reflection is imperfect, rippling slightly, as if the stone itself were breathing. The candle flame shivers, not from wind. The room is far too still for that. Its glow moves like a tiny pulse, echoing the slow rhythm of the ember bowl and the quiet hum of the temple's stone. A keeper stands behind the mirror. His mask is unlike any you've seen so far. Narrow, elongated, with two sweeping lines that flow from the forehead to the cheeks like falling streams of water. He does not speak. He simply places his hands on either side of the mirror, palms hovering but never touching its surface. The candle's light wavers across the polished obsidian, a thin streak of gold, a thin streak of shadow. The two lines twist together, then separate, then twist again. The mirror begins to deepen, not darken, deepen, as though its surface is slowly becoming water. You step closer. Your own reflection appears faintly at first, soft around the edges, the details blurred. But behind it, something else stirs in the blackness. Not a figure, not a face, just movement. A shifting shape, slow and deliberate, curling like smoke caught under glass. It drifts behind your reflection, passing from one side of the mirror to the other, changing size as it moves. You blink. The shape remains. The keeper lowers one hand towards the stone base. His fingers hover near a carved symbol, a spiral that resembles the path of a falling star. He traces it without touching. The mirror responds. The shape inside elongates. A serpentine curve forms, smooth, fluid, unmistakably deliberate.
It coils once, twice, then dissolves into strands of shadow, like ink dispersing in clear water. Another shape emerges, this one sharper, the outline of a great bird, wings spread, but formed from nothing but light and absence, like a constellation drawn without stars. You hold your breath. The mirror thickens again. The bird dissolves. A new shape flickers. A face. Not human, not beast. A mask, perhaps. Its eyes hollow, but not empty. Its mouth unmoving, yet full of quiet significance. The candle jumps. The face dissolves instantly, rippling into smoke-like strands that slide across the mirror's depths. This time, the keeper steps forward. He lifts his hand and places it near the top edge of the mirror, not touching, but close enough that the air seems to warm around his fingers. The candle flame bends towards him. Its reflection stretches across the mirror's surface, splitting into thin ribbons of light. The keeper turns his hand slightly. The ribbons twist, swirling into a spiral. The mirror shifts again. Now the surface appears deeper than the room around you, deep enough that you sense, rather than see, vastness behind it. Not a vision, not a prophecy, just a sense of infinite night reflected through ancient stone. The keeper lowers his hand and steps back. The candle steadies. The mirror stills. Your reflection returns, soft, steady, untouched by the shadows now settled deep within the obsidian. The room feels quieter, as though the mirror has shown what it needed to show. The keeper inclines his head, acknowledging your presence and the mirror's acceptance. Then he gestures to the final doorway, a simple arch of shadow leading into the stillness where the longhouse of this temple's night finally rests. Your breath slows. Your footsteps soften. You move towards the last chambers of the ritual, where sleep and memory begin to merge.
The passage beyond the mirror narrows briefly before opening into a chamber that feels quieter than all the others. Not darker, just quieter. As though the air here has settled into a deeper, slower rhythm. The torches are fewer, their flames smaller, their light gentler. They cast only soft halos on the walls, leaving the rest of the chamber bathed in a warm amber dusk. You exhale without realizing you've been holding your breath. At the center of the room lies a broad, low platform of carved stone, smooth and slightly curved, like the inside of a great ancient bowl. Woven mats made from reeds and soft fibers line the platform in gentle layers, their patterns simple but comforting, repeating spirals, waves, and stylized suns. A keeper motions for you to approach. His mask is the simplest yet, nothing more than a smooth oval face with small eye slits and a single carved line running horizontally across the brow. It looks peaceful, almost sleepy. He raises his hand and presses it gently against his chest, inviting you to sit. You do. The mats are warm, holding the memory of countless nights, countless bodies resting upon them. As you sink down, your muscles loosen in ways you didn't realize they were tight. The stone beneath the mats radiates a faint, steady heat. Nothing strong, just enough to soften the tension in your back and shoulders. Then you notice what lies directly across from you. A smaller version of the great calendar disc. Not a replica, not carved with the same precision or scale, but a companion piece, a living breath of the larger stone. Its rings are simpler, its symbols fewer, but they glow faintly with the reflection of the torches. And as you watch, the shadows slide across it in slow, hypnotic waves. You inhale quietly. The disc feels alive, not pulsing like the embers, not shimmering like the mirror, but alive in the way a sleeping animal is alive. Still, patient, aware of your presence without opening its eyes. A keeper sits on the opposite side of the platform. He places a small clay cup beside you, its surface warm, scented with herbs that smell faintly of mint and dried flowers. Steam curls from it in a thin ribbon, drifting upward to melt into the dimness above. You lift it slowly. The cup warms your hands. The scent fills your lungs. Your thoughts begin to soften at the edges. The keeper nods once, a quiet permission to drink. The liquid is mild, earthy, slightly sweet. It settles warmly in your chest, spreading outward in slow ripples. Another keeper begins arranging small glowing embers into shallow bowls around the platform. They give off little heat, just enough warmth to create pockets of still air that mix with the cooler drafts from the corridor. The temperature of the chamber becomes perfect, warm where your body rests, cool where your breath leaves your lips. You realize then, this is a chamber meant for rest, for sinking into the rhythm of the temple, for letting the night settle into the body the way moonlight settles onto calm water. The small calendar disc across from you shifts slightly in the flickering light. Its rings shimmer with a gentle, wavering glow, like reflections on water. You breathe, and the disc seems to breathe with you. The night grows deeper, your thoughts grow quieter, and the temple prepares you for the final moment of the ritual, the arrival of dawn, the return to a world waiting beneath the pyramid, and the gentle end of this long, sacred night. You do not remember the exact moment you drifted from waking into something softer. Not quite sleep, not quite dream, just a slow settling like dust in a quiet room. Time here moves differently, flowing without edges, without urgency. What brings you back is light. Not bright, not sudden, just a faint, milk-pale glow brushing across your closed eyelids. You inhale. The air has changed again, cooler now, touched with the crispness of morning. The warmth from the mats beneath you remains, but above you, the chamber holds a gentler breath, as though the temple itself has exhaled the last of the night. You open your eyes. The torches have burned low, their flames shrunk to small, wavering petals of gold. Smoke trails lazily upward, curling into thin ribbons that disappear into the high shadows. The embers in the bowls glow faintly, no longer pulsing with ritual rhythm, but resting, cooling, settling back into stillness. Across from you, the small calendar disk has dimmed. Its symbols, so bright last night, now sit quiet and calm, the shadows resting neatly inside their carved grooves. Nothing shifts, nothing breathes. It feels like a heart returning to its slow, everyday beat. A soft rustle draws your attention. A keeper steps forward, the same one who welcomed you to this resting place, his simple mask now warmed by the pale morning light filtering through the entryway behind him. He bows his head slightly, a gesture of gratitude rather than farewell. You sit up slowly. Your body feels light, unburdened, as though the stone floor itself has absorbed the heaviness of your thoughts during the night. The cup from earlier rests beside you, its scent faded, the herbs dried into gentle curls at the bottom. The keepers begin to move about the chamber. They do not hurry. They tidy the mats, adjust the embers, straighten the torches, preserving the room exactly as it was meant to remain for the next traveler, the next night, the next ritual. One keeper extends a hand toward the doorway, an invitation to rise, to depart not with haste, but with the same reverence you carried entering the temple. You follow him through the passage. The corridor is brighter now, its stone surfaces reflecting the morning light that spills softly down from higher openings. The whispering walls remain quiet, their hum dormant, their stories folded back into silence. You pass the observatory chamber. The astronomers are gone. Only the thin beam of dawn filters through the slit in the ceiling, marking the end of their night's listening. A wooden marker rests slightly askew on the floor, as though gently nudged by the turning of the world. When you reach the wide steps of the pyramid, the air greets you with a cool embrace. Mist hangs over the valley, thin, pearlescent layers drifting above the trees and lake. Birds have returned to the canopy below, filling the air with soft, morning calls that feel almost too bright after a night of quiet stone. You step outside fully. The sky is pale gold near the horizon,
fading into delicate shades of blue as it rises. The sun has not yet cleared the distant hills, but its presence is unmistakable, a gentle expectancy that glows through the mist. The keepers stand behind you at the entrance. They do not speak. They simply watch the dawn arrive, their masks reflecting a final shimmer of torchlight before the morning sun replaces it. One keeper lifts a small carved disc, a simple token shaped like the outer ring of the calendar, tiny symbols etched around its edge. He offers it to you, a blessing for safe steps, a reminder of the night's breathing stone, a memory carved small enough to carry. You accept it. Its weight is light, but the warmth it holds feels familiar, the same warmth that hummed under your hand when the great calendar disk pulsed with ancient firelight. The first rays of the sun appear. They spill gently over the valley, running up the sides of the pyramid, catching your hands, your breath, the carved disk you now carry. The keepers bow, a farewell not spoken but understood. You descend the steps slowly, each footfall steady, quiet, certain. And as you reach the clearing below, the world seems softer, the air clearer, the earth warmer, the sky more open. The night behind you becomes a memory. The temple returns to its silence, and dawn meets you with a calm that feels earned, a new cycle beginning, gentle and bright, just as the fifth sun always promised.
You walk a little farther from the temple, its silhouette fading into the soft brightness of the morning. The mist settles around the trees, drifting in pale ribbons across the ground, and every breath you take feels slower now, easier, as though the night has loosened something inside you and let it fall gently away. You pause beneath a tall tree at the edge of the clearing. The leaves shiver faintly in the early breeze, rustling in a rhythm that reminds you of the whispering walls. Soft, steady, never hurried. A rhythm that invites your thoughts to settle, your shoulders to sink, your breath to soften into something weightless. The temple behind you is quiet now. The keepers have returned to their morning rituals, the astronomers to their careful notes, the calendars to their slow, patient silence. The world of stone and night waits for another traveler, another cycle, another dusk. But your world narrows to this moment, just your breath, just your heartbeat, just the warmth lingering in your hands from the small carved disc tucked safely into your palm. You feel its shape, the gentle curves, the tiny etched symbols, and the memory of the great stone calendar returns in a soft wave, not vivid, not sharp, just soothing, like a dream settling comfortably into the back of your mind. A long exhale leaves your body without effort. The mist moves slowly across the clearing. Birdsong lifts in small, fragile notes, and you feel yourself drifting, not walking, not thinking, just drifting. If you were to lie down now, the earth beneath you would feel warm, the air cool, the world perfectly balanced between waking and sleep. Your eyes feel heavier, your breath deeper, your thoughts farther away. The night has passed, but its calm remains. Let it stay with you now, in your chest, your hands, your breathing, softening everything, loosening everything, carrying you gently into the quiet where sleep waits, slow and warm like dawn light through an ancient door.